Ryan Holt from the Bakersfield Condors. How's it going, Holty?
I'm fantastic. How are you guys doing?
We
It's a
are
roller coaster over here.
Yeah, we're fine. All things considered, we're fine. I want to talk about, there's a whole bunch of really interesting stories on this Condors team right now. And the one that has the fan base buzzing, and I think if you would have told people a few months ago that this is the name that would have like Oilers fans who just kind of keep an eye on the Condors buzzing, what's Connor Clattenburg been like this year?
He's a nail gun. It's exciting. It's exciting for a young guy to have the impact that he's had. And I think he understands his role. And, we're 15 games in and he's the youngest member of this team on a young team, right? And, I don't think he gets enough credit for his offensive instincts and his skating ability. I don't think you're able to hit guys if you can't skate, if you're in the right position for checking. He's been good at that. He's been physical. He's picked his spots. Obviously, the fighting is a part of his game, but he's just been a physical hockey player, and that's what that line's needed. Him and Capone have been very good. They had Max Jones with them last night, but they've had Daniel D'Amato too, and they've just had an identity early on. They don't need to score, but they've killed penalties, and they've been very physical. But Clattenburg's been terrific at his role.
How's Max Jones been? Because obviously, if he was to get called up to Edmonton, he's a bottom six guy. Is he establishing himself in that kind of role in Bakersfield as a bit more of a physical presence?
Yeah, I think, he's battled a couple injuries here early on this year. He's had a little bit of a groin problem. He's had a little bit of a shoulder problem. So has been in and out of the lineup here of late. But last night I thought he looked good. It was the first time really in a checking role, if you will, kind of in that bottom six, even here in Bakersfield, because I think he can go up and down the lineup, especially at this level, right? Like he can be a top six guy, obviously at this level, and he can play that checking role. So, I don't think he hurts you in a bottom six role at the NHL level at all.
Any part of Quinn Hudson's game surprising you, and just maybe how quickly he's even adapting at the pro level? Like I see he's leading the charge when it comes to rookie scoring in the American Hockey League. It's just hard to tell sometimes when a guy has the numbers like he did in college. You're like, okay, is that because he's older than the guys he's playing against and it's a product of that? Or some guys are just natural scorers, and the numbers, if the numbers aren't lying, he looks like a guy who's maybe just a natural scorer.
Yeah, I think he has 12 points in his last 5 games. It's come on here of late, right? 2 weeks ago we were talking about him leading the team in shots, but not leading the team in finishing. And now you look at it, and all of a sudden he's leading the league in rookie scoring. So he's on a heater. It's been great to see. I can't imagine there's been many times, at the AHL level where you've had the 2 top college players on the same team from a year ago. And you could argue that Hudson and Howard were the 2 top collegiate players a year ago at BU and at Michigan State. So it's been fun to watch them the last 2 games. They've been great with Szymanski. There's a youthful exuberance to this team. Hudson's a natural goal-scoring finisher. I think his skating is what is the question. His play away from the puck is what is his question at the next level. If that improves, he has the natural ability to finish. He's got a terrific shot.
There's started to get a bit of a European flair down in Bakersfield, it's fair to say, especially on the Finnish side of things. And I think Roby Jarventi has fans quite excited recently after, so at the start of the season, people who don't know, he wasn't allowed to play back-to-back games, right, but has now started to do that, and it seems like his game he's doing well every single night.
He would be my first, if you're pegging, who's my first call up? He would be my first call up, just in terms of a guy that could plug and play, I think, at the next level. He's been a point per game guy here for us. I think he's got 7 goals in 11 games. It's been a limited sample size, right? He's coming off back-to-back injuries that derailed the last 2 seasons for him. But for Jarventi, he has the size, he skates well, he moves well for a big man. He's got a terrific shot, both not only a one-timer, but also terrific snapshot, wrist shot that he gets off quick as well. So for me, he is the guy who, depending on what you need, he's the guy on the wing, I think, for, the opportunity, I think, in terms of ready at the next level, plug and play, that hasn't really been there yet, right? Max Jones has already been there. Isaac Howard's already been there a little bit. But Jarventi, just in terms of age and look factor, he fits all all the bills and he checks all the boxes. Yeah, he's fully healthy. He's ready to go. He's playing every game now.
So I think the checklist for maybe, what the Oilers could be looking for if they were to call someone up. And hey, Philp, Lazar, both going to be out for the rest of the road trip. Who knows how long those could linger. They're obviously missing Nuge too. But I think what they'd be looking for is maybe someone who could bring some energy, a combination of like energy, physical play, and maybe a little bit of scoring touch would be nice, and bring that into a bottom six role. Do you think Jarventi is a guy who, if his minutes were to go down to 11, 12, or 13 a night, could he still make an impact at the NHL level?
Yes, because he was kind of doing that to begin this season too, right? Yeah. Like they inched him along here, and were very careful with him. A lot of work done by our great strength and conditioning coach Travis Lay and kind of his crew, and being able to manage Roby, and Roby was chomping at the bit to get going. Don't get me wrong, he wanted to play, and he was almost like a horse being held back a little bit, but he's fully ready to go. So I think he's had an impressive start to the season. He's in that window, right? It's just weird because he hasn't played the last 2 years, but he's right in that window, and he hasn't looked any worse for the wear from what he should have been, maybe 2 years ago when he did get hurt.
Connor Ingram, I think it's probably fair to go there next,
go there.
as we just continue to ask about every single player on the roster. Obviously, there was those 3 games where he didn't play after a questionable start. I think it's fair, but last night he looked good. The game before he had good numbers too. Does his game seem to be coming around? And I guess the second part of it too, like, when do you think he could possibly be ready for the NHL?
He didn't have a training camp, right? Like that's important to keep in mind here.
Yeah, he didn't have a training camp. He was kind of sitting around in limbo, right, in Utah, and he talked about that when we were in Calgary, just kind of in limbo and not knowing what was going on. He didn't really have much discussion with the Mammoth on what was happening, and then he ended up getting a call and said, hey, you're traded to Edmonton. So, I think for him, it was a lot of sitting around waiting, right? So had a great start to, his Condors career, had a great opening start, obviously dipped a little bit for a couple starts. A little bit of a reset over 2 weeks, but I think the last 2 starts, you're seeing a composed Connor Ingram. He was the reason why we were in the game on Friday in San Diego. I mean, he should have won the game. It was unfair how we didn't win that hockey game on Friday night, but he was terrific. I think he stopped 35 of 39. He was very good last night. We were very good in front of him. Probably our best defensive game in front of a netminder this season, which has been good to see. When he's ready, NHL level, I don't know. That's above my pay grade, but he's done everything that's been asked of him here. He had a great couple articles the last couple of weeks too, kind of opening up about what the last couple of years have been like for him, and credit to him for sharing that, because it's not easy. And I think he is he's a guy who's beloved by his teammates. I think Josh Brown speaks highly of him just from his days in Arizona, and kind of the friendship that they had back then as well too, and being able to rekindle that here in Bakersfield.
Sorry, just to follow up on that. How is he, you mentioned Josh Brown, says he's a good teammate, all that. How has he embraced it being in the American League? Because obviously he's an established NHL goalie, you know what I mean? Like, how is he doing with all of that?
He said that's one of his biggest reasons for wanting to get back to the NHL is get off this bus, even though the bus is very good here in Bakersfield.
Yeah, we talked about this last year. The bus sounds amazing.
The bus is amazing. He just wants to get off the back-to-backs and the 4-hour trips from San Diego and having to play the next night. But I thought that was a great sign for him, to play well in San Diego. And then Tompkins followed it up with a nice start as well too. And Tompkins has been good too, and I know the numbers look a little wonky, right? Because there's a couple of outliers, I think. But I think when you look at their game overall, I think both have, given this team a chance to win. And I think once the defensive side of things starts to figure itself out, and I think it's starting to here over the last, say, 5 games, things look a lot better for this group in front of them.
If I had to make a headline for your appearance, would it be fair to say play better than the numbers when it comes to Connor Ingram? Like, is that a good way to sum it up?
I think so. I think, it's a team game, I think, in terms of their numbers and what you're looking at, on the whole. There's a couple of clunkers in there, right? There's the end of a 12-day, 6-game trip for, as you mentioned, in your last segment, a young team, right? We're on the road for 12 days, 6 games, 3 cities. Like, that's a grind for this group, considering the average age is probably 24 right now. When you look at, that game, and then you look at Tompkins' season opener against San Jose, where that was as pond hockey as I've ever seen a Condors team play. It finished 7-6. He gave the team a chance to win.
Yeah.
So I think you throw those two games out, their numbers look a lot better. They'll look better extrapolated with a bigger sample size. So the team's playing better in front of them now as well, too, defensively.
Last one for me, I guess, is Ike Howard, who you are obviously just getting to know down in Bakersfield, and what an impact, again, just stat sheet wise. 4 points, 2 games. I saw the highlight of the 1 goal, just an absolute beauty. He's adapting pretty well to the American Hockey League game.
Yeah, him and Hudson and Josh Szymanski's been their pivot here for 2 games, and Szymanski's a personality in and of himself here. I think that's a guy that, is going to come to the forefront here, and he's been a multi-point game guy for the last 5. So Hudson, Howard, I mean, it's just been fun to watch them, honestly. Like, it really is a treat to watch this team every night. They make a lot of mistakes, as a group, not just individually, but they're fun to watch offensively. Mariala's been centering a line. Howard's done everything that's been asked of him. He'll be in the NHL, sooner rather than later. When that is, I don't know. But he's a guy who, has a terrific shot. His work away from the puck is getting there. He's killing penalties last night as well, too, against Calgary. Nice. So that was great to see, too. He's trying to add more tools to the toolbox, right, and do everything he can to get to the next level. And these guys are all chomping at the bit right now.
Yeah, a follow-up, I guess. So I lied about it being my last question, but did Howard share anything about like what he was kind of, told to work on when he gets down there?
Yeah, they said just go out and play more minutes, right? Play your game and get that confidence back. And I think, personally, I think looking at it even this summer, right, when they brought in Howard and we kind of knew he was going to start in the NHL, I think there was always a little inkling that at some point he's probably going to end up in the American Hockey League just to get the confidence back. It's hard, right? You're playing 8-9 minutes a night to be able to get what you need at the NHL level. I think there's enough of his game that translates at the NHL level. If you add in some penalty killing, add in just the confidence, you're seeing it with Quinn Hudson now. We saw it with Matt Savoy last year, and now Savoy's become a trusted member of the Oilers here early on this season. So I think if you continue to do those things, you give yourself a chance at the next level.
There's always this debate, and I strongly disagree with it when people say this, that the Oilers, the cupboards are bare, there's nothing coming. What assets do they have for trades? I feel like that's just undervalues what the Oilers have been able to do with some of the players they've brought in from Europe. Like Szymanski and Marja look decent. Like, we just rifled through, 5 or 6 players who are legit NHL prospects for this team. Like, you see it all the time. There is players coming through the system here, right?
Yeah, I mean, Mariala's 22 years old. Yeah. Szymanski's 22 years old. Lepinen's on the older side. I say older, 26, 27. But, these are guys that were unheard of. And I, to be quite honest with you, I probably shouldn't admit this. I completely forgot about Mariala until, training camp showed up. And where did he come from? What did we get him for? And, chatting with him, it was just a great opportunity. It was a great find. By the European scouts, by the Oilers, who have developed relationships in Finland and being able to, kind of recruit a guy like Mariala over here. And he's crafty, man. Like, he's slender and, he's on the smaller side just in terms of his physical stature. But, he makes plays. Whoever he plays with has been successful. And he's starting to shoot the puck a little bit more. And I think that's an area of his game that is underrated as well, too. He can score. I mean, you're going to look at the assists, and he's top 5 in assists in the league right now, but he's a guy who can make plays. And again, just 22 years old. You're talking about Hudson being 23, 22, Howard 21, Szymanski 22, some growing to do for all of those guys. But, credit to the Oilers for at least replenishing the cupboards and completely remaking how this place looks from year to year.
I have one more.
Last one, though, then we're done.
I promise it's my last one. I don't know how long you've been there, Ryan. Sorry, but how is the development different now than what it was, let's say 3 or 4 years ago? You know what I mean? Like, you talked about Howard there, how it's like he's playing on the penalty kill now. We heard it a lot with Savoy and Philp last season too, and now they're coming to the NHL. They're ready to play that. It feels like the Oilers actually have a plan now for their prospects rather than just being like, okay, go play in Bakersfield.
Yeah, I think there was always a plan, right? And I think that plan's been executed based off what has been here, right? You're forgetting the Brobergs and the Holloways and the Kesselrings of the world too, who, they were moved out for other picks. You look at Max Warner was moved out, and you have Alex Regula now. So you have an NHL defenseman, and no disrespect to Max Warner, but he's being scratched in the American Hockey League right now. So you're able to turn assets into prospects, either at the NHL level or at the AHL level, to be able to grow and develop them. Same thing with the Savoys and the Philps of the world. I think this team specifically is probably the deepest skilled offensive team the Condors have had probably since the first year, and that was a veteran team. I know it had Draisaitl kicking around and Andrew Miller, but that was a veteran team for the group early on. You had the Tyler Bensons, Coop Marodis of the world kind of in the 18-19, 19-20 kind of area, but again, that had a lot of veteran presence, right? Cracknell, Griffith started coming along. This year, it feels like the kids are driving the bus, which hasn't happened since the Benson and the Marodis of the world, but I'm not sure that they were full-fledged, quote-unquote, prospects. Benson was, Marody never really got a shot. These are kids driving the bus looking for the next opportunity, and it's fun to watch. They are. They're a joy to be around. They're, I think you saw Clattenburg's post-game interview in front of the fans. They're having fun. They're enjoying being around each other. They're loose. It's fun to come to the rink and see these guys every day.
And it's fun to chat with you, Ryan Holt.
Yes.
We appreciate your time. Thank you for popping on, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
There you go. Ryan
Yeah.
Holt. He wears pretty much every hat for the Bakersfield Condors.
I guess as he goes through that last question, maybe they just have better players.
Maybe
Maybe they just have better players, and it seems like the plan, maybe I shouldn't have quite said plan,
Yeah,
but is just looking like it's working more because the players are just better, and they're developing better. Because
Josh
they're
Szymanski's
good.
22, or 23.
Marshall is 22. Their rosters, like you said, is very young.
I think outside of the organization, outside of Edmonton, people think it's just Seth Griffith practicing on the ice with a bunch of tumbleweeds, and that's not the case. There's legitimate talent down there that the Oilers might be relying on sooner rather than later. Who knows how long Lazar's out for? Who knows how long Philps out for?
Totally.
Someone's getting called up when they get back from the road trip if those two guys aren't healthy. Even if one of them is an extended injury, someone's coming up.
Yeah, and there's a few guys we didn't even talk about.
Couldn't ask him every player.
No, we almost did, but Boakey. He's only 20. I feel like people have given up on him already. It's such an interesting angle of they just have all these older guys now. But these older guys are probably going to be more ready to step into an NHL lineup because they're older and a bit more developed as a man.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you enjoyed today's episode of Oilers Nation Every Day, make sure you hit the subscribe button here on our YouTube to not miss any of our content. We got you covered from interviews, insight, analysis, everything you need to stay up to date on everything around the team. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video.